solve this equation, and if you have an equation where something is squared, you can get rid of the squared by square root. Just like when we had square roots, we got rid of them by square. So in this case, can I get the squared by itself? Well, I can add 7 to both sides. I can divide both sides by 3. And whenever you square root both sides, you have to remember the plus or minus. Now to verify, we have to check each of these answers. So first of all, we're going to check x equals the positive square root of 5. Split up our page, left side and right side, go to our original equation. The right side was just 8. The left side would have been 3x squared minus 7. So now I will square that. This will give me 3 times 5 minus 7. 15 minus 7 is 8. So I know that x equals the positive square root of 5 works. I need to verify as well Smartboard is off. I need to verify and check x equals negative square root of 5 as well. So again, I split it up, left side and right side. Right side is still 8. And now I would have 3 bracket negative square root of 5 squared minus 7. So notice when you plug a number in to verify something, we put it in brackets, especially if there's a negative. Can you see that negative root 5 squared will be, the negative squared will be positive, and the root 5 times root 5 will be 5 again. So this will be 3 times 5, 15, minus 7, and it works. Common mistake on our calculator is that we don't include the brackets. And then you get an answer that is incorrect. I'm going to open up the calculator and just show you what happens if you don't put the brackets compared to putting the brackets. Because your calculator knows order of operations. So when you write negative square root of 5, and then you're like, oh, I want to square that, it looks very similar to what you wrote down. And so your brain goes, this should be the right answer. But when I push enter, I get negative 5 and not positive 5. But if that was in brackets, negative square root of 5, then it's positive 5. Because order of operations would say in the first one, square first, and when you square you get 5, then multiply by negative 1, and that's why the first one is negative. For the second one, it's saying square the whole thing, so it's negative root 5 times negative root 5, and you know that a negative times a negative is positive. So you could accidentally say, oh, this one doesn't work, but in this case, both of them work. And you're also going to find, okay, these equations that we're solving with an x squared. I will quite often not ask you to verify solutions because I'm going to make your life easy. These are called quadratic equations. Quadratic equations, if an answer works, it will work. Yeah, I mean, it's good to verify things, but with radical equations, with the square root, you sometimes get extraneous roots. So radical equations, you always have to verify because you might get an answer that doesn't work. But x squared equations or quadratic equations, they will always work. So I might start taking out the verify part because it's a bit redundant. The nice thing about verifying is if you did screw up in your math, like I did at the beginning, right? I would have noticed when I verified that, oh, I must have made a mistake somewhere. because this isn't working. Okay, let's look at part B. X plus 3 squared equals 20. Our squared item is all by itself, so we can get rid of the squared by square rooting on both sides. When we square root both sides, and sometimes people like to show the work by just doing this on both sides. Square root that side, square root that side. But you have to remember when you do square root both sides, that you remember the square root sign and the plus or minus. And finally, to get x by itself, I would have to subtract 3 on this side and subtract 3 on this side. And why would I lose a half a mark on this question? Not simplified yet. The square root of 20 is part of your root 5 family. So we review our last chapter a lot in this unit, because you will have to simplify square roots all the time. So our final answer is -3 plus 2 root 5. Okay? Notice the answer at the bottom of the textbook, they didn't simplify it. I have to take off a half a mark off the textbook. So, okay, I'd like you to just circle question number 4.